So, welcome, Ton Van. Is it Duijn? Have I said that right?
Yeah, you said it about right. Yeah, it's
Tom
very Dutch
Van
name.
Duijn, who is Business Development Manager at Cellular Agriculture Netherlands. So, I wonder if you could just sort of introduce yourself, Tom, and tell us a little bit about what Cellular Agriculture Netherlands are doing, what
Yeah,
their role is, what your role is.
yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Alex. Yeah, my role is a business development manager, which pretty much means that I am the go-to person for any private entities working within our Dutch ecosystem. So our Cellular Agriculture Netherlands, or CAN for short, is an organization that has the ambition to strengthen the Dutch ecosystem, which is a lot of words, but just saying that we focus on building all the necessary topics to need to further build the cellular agriculture field. So we focus on education, filling that pieces within fundamental research, training the future workforce, working together with a lot of education platforms on multiple programs. And I'm personally involved with scaling up. So that means that we support startups with scaling up, but also collaborate more with value chain partners to make scaling up and getting this industry off the ground more easily.
Yeah. So, I mean, I suppose the Netherlands is a very important country for cellular agriculture, and it's a bit of a sort of pioneering country as well. I mean, it kind of started there, really, and a lot of the enthusiasm, especially within Europe, I'd say it's kind of one of the kind of main countries supporting this technology and this sort of food solution. Would you agree with that?
Of course, I agree with that. Now, I think historically you're right. Where there has been a lot of investment from the Dutch government already in this research. We have also got some really large scientific accomplishments. The first Dutch cultivated meat hamburger presented by Mark Post and Mosa meat. I think that was a big accomplishment, but also we have in the field of precision fermentation a long-standing history with large multinational companies like DSM. So yeah, I think from a technology perspective, but also more like historic perspective on how we approach this and how we are open to these new type of innovations, especially in food. Yeah, the Netherlands is having the ambition to become or remain a global frontrunner in this field.
Yeah, and so Moss and Meat created the first burger, which
Yeah,
I think historically was it? Well, I mean, was it worth 200,000
yeah,
euros or something
I
like
think
that?
around that
Yeah,
field, a big
approximately.
sum. I can't afford that eating that every night. No.
No, but they haven't really. But it's been a long time, and they still don't have any regulatory approval or products on the market, do they? Which is
Yeah,
interesting.
you're right. So they have put in a dossier currently with the EFSA, as Gourmet did, French company. But there's a quite yeah, let's say there's a very thorough process that the EFSA is taking. So I think which is good. They're taking it very seriously to look at food safety, but it's taken quite a while. But they, as far as I know, expected to launch within the UK first.
Yeah,
Uh,
so they're part of the sandbox in the UK, aren't they?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently EFSA they they were also considering a sandbox, but I don't know if they went ahead with that.
Yeah, that's still in discussion, I would say. But I think looking from what we have learned from the EFSA and the way they approach this, and they have a bit more of a collaborative model and exploring ways to go through this process, which is new on both sides, right?
Mm.
It's also new from the regulation perspective, and it requires a lot of flexibility to work together to make it, yeah, to get this as a more effective process out there. And I would say I would be advocating from like an industry perspective towards more collaboration because otherwise there's so much risk and so much money involved. that is now being pushed towards that startups, and especially with the current investment field there. I think that's put so much effort in their part, which I would like to see we can change that and make it a bit more easier, not just only process the dossiers that have already been filed, but also lower the thresholds for other companies to put in a dossier.
Yeah. So I suppose just, we're talking about the sandbox as though everybody really understands what that is, but
Yeah.
it's a process, I suppose, which has been undertaken in Israel very successfully also, and in the UK, the FSA have launched the sandbox, and there are cultivated meat companies that are collaborating through the sandbox. I suppose sharing ideas and working together, like you say, to bring this technology to market,
Mm-hmm.
and also helping the regulators learn what they need.
Exactly.
Is that right?
I think that is a really a great benefit of this approach, right? By actually collaborating more and experiencing how it works from both ends, they find ways to accelerate this process. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this more collaborative model, as I truly believe is the best way to how to approach this systemic change that we are envisioning.
Yeah. And so the Netherlands have invested a lot of money into cellular agriculture. I mean, I suppose it seems like a lot of money. And
Yeah.
compared to what the UK have invested, it is a lot of money. But perhaps in regard to what is required to bring this stuff to market, do you think it's enough?
Well, money always helps to smooth things out, make things go easier and quicker. So I would say investing a lot of money can help get to market faster because there's a lot of capex investments, out of pocket costs that needs to be done in order to scale up production. But as you said, it seems a lot of money. 60 million has been invested through our national program, which we can run for 8 years. But I'm really impressed to see what has been established for that just 60 million,
Mm.
right? Because we have built two, together with a lot of partners in co-financing, built two separate upscale facilities, scale facilities, one for precision fermentation and one for cultivated meat. So there's a lot of material in place, a lot of investments made there. So I'm really pleased and really proud to see that has been pulled off. But we're also invested in 3 tenure tracks. So there's academic research tracks with more than 17 PhDs or 70 PhDs, as it say, who are performing a lot of required studies to make sure that we can fill those technical gaps in there. So they're supporting the availability of public knowledge, but also the setting up and the managing of the education programs for those future workforce, the employees that we're going to need to further scale this industry. Those are all within that 60 million. So
Okay.
I'm actually quite really proud, but also find it really good to see that the 60 million that is already expanding far beyond it. And there's more and more partners becoming part of it as I see this program works.
Yeah, I suppose getting that money from sort of central, sort of public money, it encourages private investments. The private investors feel more kind of protected or more supported.
I can see it that way. You can also look at that way around, that there was a lot of private money involved, and
Mm.
now it leans more towards public money because, focus shifted to AI, some other technologies from private investors. But I think it's very encouraging to see that more public funding is invested towards this industry, as it's still a big recognition for the strategic importance of this industry for our future of food, and the way that we shape our food system in the future.
Okay. So there will be large facilities for cultivated meat and for precision fermentation. And does that mean that they will be kind of open access? Will they be kind of available for startups to
Yeah,
use? Yeah.
yeah, I think good that you mentioned that. I think the whole idea behind these scale-up facilities is that they enable more startups to take part in scaling up the processes. Because, yeah, I don't know, everybody knows, but having that initial technology in place and having a process on like a lab scale, 10 liters, is way different than moving that towards 1,000 liters. So that early technology development and scaling up, there's two separate parts of work. So I think it's a massive accomplishment that we got it within the Netherlands. So we don't only provide access to the material, which is way more cost effective, that you don't have to invest a lot of money in steel and other capex investments, but does only buy the hours and the capacity that you need, but also that you have access to the ever increasing knowledge of the team working there, because they can already support innovation on a very early stage to become involved and look at from a perspective on scaling it towards 1,000 liter or even beyond that. So I'm really happy with the knowledge there, and even more importantly, what we're building around it. So we're not just looking at from like a technology perspective anymore. There's a lot of discussion about TRLs, but I think it's also really important to look at from like a commercial readiness level. So we also support with procurement, regulation support. So yeah, basically provide all the required and necessary support for enabling scaling.
Okay. And so, with this money invested, what would success look like for the Dutch cellular agriculture strategy over the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, for me, the biggest achievement, if we would hit the shelves with any of the current products that have been now developed, but not too sure if we can already reach that. There's still too much piece of the puzzle that needs to fit in. Hopefully, it will be achieved by that, but basically, I think our biggest strategy and accomplishment is continue to push what we do. Be realistic, don't overpromise, but continue to help building those building blocks to support future scaling. And I think we just started, especially with those scaling facilities, but we now see more and more customers coming in. We are increasing our range of expertise, also the adjacent services that I just told you that we provide. So I think I would like to see that we continue push for what we're doing, because I truly believe that those three specific work streams, education, research, and scaling up, are a really good combination together.
Yeah. And I suppose it's more likely that products from precision fermentation would reach the market long before cultivated.
Yeah, some are already in place there, right?
Yeah.
So it's a sort of, but
So
I
it's a
see
bit of
it.
a win-win because you can have the sort of short-term gains and the long-term gains. Is that the idea?
Yeah, even though when I talk to precision fermentation, they have more like a go-to-market strategy, first towards the US and then eventually go back to the Netherlands. But it's also going to depend where, because their challenges are more towards scaling up towards higher volumes. So they're also looking for ways outside of the Netherlands to produce. But I guess you're right. Overall, their regulatory process seems to be less stringent,
Mm.
more quick. So I guess they will be running hitting the market first. Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think? I mean, this is a bit kind of off-piste question, I suppose, and I suspect you might not know, but what do you think the kind of general consensus is in the Netherlands towards cultivated meats? You know, what's the sort of general opinion on the
Yeah.
street on the street?
Well, actually, we do know. So we funded some research on public acceptance. And actually, it's relatively high. It's around like 60, 70% of people who would be open to taste it or buy it. But yeah, we still don't know when it actually hits the shelf.
Yeah.
I do know that we still need to push a lot and focus on creating the right products. Because what we learned from like the plant-based introduction, the first products that hit the shelves, that didn't match the expectations of the customer. And it normally takes about like 3 to 5 years for someone after that experience to try it again. So it's also really encourage learning from that and including retail and food service already now, which I would like to and exploring collaborations in that field to also learn from that and don't make the same uh, go to the same learning curve as they did.
Yeah. Well, I think it sounds like there's more positive reception to this in the Netherlands than there is, at least in the UK. Well, I mean, amongst sort of Gen Z, I think it was around sort of 57%. So, but
Exactly.
the yeah, but kind of older consumers are a little bit less excited about it, I suppose.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's quite a distinction between generations. But I think, yeah, that could be normal, right? For people that
Yeah.
have been used so much to eating the products that they know that they love, are not as much prone to trying something new. And
Yes.
so, but
I suppose the older we get, the kind of less we like change.
yeah, yeah, I think that's about right. And yeah, but I think that also matches the way that the industry is developing, right? So we cannot provide products for everyone. That's currently not realistic. So it's gonna build further and further. So it matches, I think, the generation needs.
Okay. And just quickly, what are your thoughts on why we need cultivated meat and precision fermentation? Have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, my personal view is that we need it to in order to make sure that we can cope with the ever increasing demand for protein. I think the new research shows that towards 2050 it will increase by at least 15% towards now, and that develops together with the ever increasing wealth position within the world, especially from the global south. So, in order to continue providing for that without further going beyond the planetary boundaries, I think cultivated meat is a great example of a technology that can support that gap.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't see it as a replacement of conventional meat,
Mm.
but I see it as an addition, as something that can be support the current meat industry by providing that demand. So I see also and view a lot of collaboration between the current meat industry and the industry that we are representing.
Yeah. It's interesting that the media doesn't really talk very much about planetary boundaries, do they? I mean, we haven't we breached six of the nine of them now. Is
Yeah, and the
some
food system has a massive impact on it. So yeah, I think we don't talk about it as much as we should do.
no.
But I'm also not for like engaging with customers and consumers on a daily basis on the choices they make in food, right? That's something more like a B2B that needs to be happening. But yeah, if I look at the way that if everybody would live like we do in the Netherlands, we would use the yearly resources that the planet can produce around May 5th.
Right.
So yeah, we should definitely look into different ways that we can either change our consuming pattern,
Yeah.
um, move towards more plant-based or in combination with hybrid balanced products, or find ways to produce it more efficiently.
Okay. So we were talking earlier about the sandbox in the UK, and we were talking. You were saying about kind of precision fermentation. People are going to the US to scale up. Do you think that Europe risks falling behind the US and Asia when it comes to scaling production?
Yeah, also depends on how you define scaling, right? If you look at just from like a commodity, eventually like the far ahead commodity production, I'm not too sure if it would be the right place to produce that, or let's say Asia or US is more suitable. But all these steps before that, which I also see part of this important scaling journey, I think we are really well positioned to play a big part in it. Like we have a very strong um, technology experience. We have, I think, quite a supportive political system, especially within the Netherlands, but also surrounding countries. So, of course, there's a lot of risks involved in that, but there's also a lot of options and chances within Europe, especially if you look like what's going on currently on the political level in the US, and also what I get back from talking to companies there about their funding climate. I can see there's also a lot of potential for at least scaling up towards a certain level within the EU.
Yeah. I mean, there are some outliers in the EU, like like the Netherlands, like Denmark,
Yeah,
and kind of Germany to a certain degree. But then there are countries like Italy, of course, and Hungary, although that might change, and France a little bit. And recently there was the EU banned the use of certain naming of kind of non-meat
yeah,
meaty sort of products. So you can't call a plant-based sausage a sausage, for example.
yeah.
And so, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's too early to say what the effect will be in that field. Also, it's not my expertise really to know what the depth of that ban will be, and if there's how individual countries are coping with that. But yeah, looking from a consumer perspective, I think it's really important that they understand what they are buying. So when these products hit the shelf, they must know that the meat we are producing contains the same allergens as conventional meat. So yeah, ultimately, I think it's most important to look at from a consumer perspective and what they get from it. And I would say that the consumer is well equipped to make this distinction between plant-based
Yeah.
or cultivated or conventional meat. So
Well,
yeah,
I suppose the difficulty is there are sort of some states within Europe who think one way, and then there are some that think a
yeah,
different way, but you all kind of have to agree
yeah.
on one way, which is the problem, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, which is the problem for going fast, but also enables you to view from different perspectives. So as long as we continue to build from that and learn from that and move towards the direction that we currently seem to be going, then I have a lot of confidence that the EU will play a big role in this transition.
Yeah. Okay. So, and the Netherlands, they've enabled pre-approval tastings as well,
Yeah.
haven't they? Which has that meaningfully accelerated progress, or is regulation still the main bottleneck, do you think, in Europe? I mean, that's assuming regulation is the main bottleneck, but
Yeah,
I guess it is a bottleneck.
I think it's a bottleneck.
Mm.
Regulation, I think it needs to be done very thoroughly. So we're really supporting that the EU sets like the golden standard for this regulation process. So, but it would help if we could make it a bit more or de-risk the whole process a bit more, so that more companies can put in their dossiers, or that it's more predictable how the process will go.
Mm.
So a bit more collaborative approach in that. At least that's what I get back from people daily involved in that. But yeah, I think having that tasting in place, yeah, it's a big recognition that the technology behind it is at least deemed to be safe for consumption. But it's also like a very pragmatic solution towards allowing to taste, to improve certain qualities of the product that you have, show it to investors, people that you need to convince and showcase the quality of it, but also for your dossier submission, right? To tweak it, to test it. So yeah, I think it's a very pragmatic approach, and also shows a bit of the Dutch mentality towards this. But it's definitely not solving the
No.
solution there.
It's an advantage, I think, that you have over the UK in that I hear companies are having some troubles getting their products into the UK in order to have the tasting. So if they're coming from Europe, they kind of get stopped at the border.
Yeah,
So which obviously they would need in order to kind of get approval through the sandbox.
yeah, exactly. But that's definitely one of the topics that they are addressing there, and I just really like the approach that they're taking there, to explore it from different perspectives and to see if they can find ways to cope with that. But yeah, you're right. That seems to be one of the bottlenecks in their
Yeah.
system.
So what needs to change at the EU level to unlock faster approvals, do you think?
Yeah, as I just mentioned, I would advocate for a more collaborative approach, a bit more, because we're both in this together, right? Not just as a producing company, but also regulation. This is new for everyone. We need to put food safety top priority. So don't make less rules or just follow the process, but make it more predictable, and de-risk the process a bit more. So currently, what we get back is that it's very hard to predict how long the process will take, and especially in a market where everything's pre-revenue, every day you're gonna lose money in there. So knowing what to expect and how to collaborate, but also learn from it and make it for the next generation companies more easily to apply. I think that would definitely help up speeding this industry.
Yeah. I heard, I mean, I understand that the EFSA approval process is quite high risk because if you uh, if you get it wrong, you have to start again. Is that right?
Yeah, what I've learned, it's product based. So you apply for one product, and if you want to move towards a new product, you have to go through the whole process again. I
Right.
presume
Okay.
that in practice that will be more quickly, since you already know it, they know your company. But so far that hasn't been tested. So yeah, I think there are definitely more effective ways to organize it. But we'll see in the future how that will evolve.
Hmm. So I suppose if you could because it's with EFSA it's quite hard to get ongoing assistance, isn't it? You know you if you have questions, if you have problems, that I think I've heard that it's quite hard to speak to somebody and kind of get answers there without having to restart.
Yeah, yeah, I haven't experienced that myself, but that's the
Right.
same message that I hear from some people that, and therefore, like a similar setup as the UK, or in a different way could help. Because as I said, you need each other to learn from it. And if you are so far away, even though you're dealing with the same issues, because I guess the people working at EFSA, they would like to do their work as fast and as good as they possibly can, right?
Yeah.
But there's something limiting that discussion to happen. So
Mm.
yeah, I would like to might see that changing.
I suppose we need to see the first approval, and from then, things will change. I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine the same that that will change a large, and also if we have like positive response that we perceive to will be getting, then I'm sure that's gonna speed up something.
I suppose it comes back to whether kind of Europe might get left behind because Asia is, as we've seen in Singapore, they're quite hot, quite kind of nimble in this area, aren't they? And then there's other countries I know that people at Aleph Farms they've gone to Thailand and Singapore. There's quite a few countries that are, because Aleph Farms did start their process in Europe, and
Mhm.
I've spoken with Didier Toubier, and he said that that it was too slow, so they've gone to Asia.
Yeah, yeah, but now also hear stories that yeah, we're I had a couple of years later that are saying that Europe is actually a bit more open, but we do have a more thorough process, which is making it inherently long. But yeah, I think at least from the signals I get, there's still strong support for this industry within Europe.
Okay. And the other thing that's interesting at the moment in Netherlands is the Respect Farms idea, the idea of working with farmers in regard to integrated cellular agriculture. How realistic is this in practice?
Um, I think it's very realistic, very valid approach, but it's still too early to conclude that. I think historically, farmers have always made sure that we got food on our table. And especially in the Netherlands, we are really proud of our farmers because they are well known within the world. They export their technology and their services throughout the world. So at least exploring and finding ways to collaborate them, not talk about them, but include them within this process makes sense. If it eventually will work, we don't know, but it's at least worth trying. So we are really glad with Respect Farms taking on that massive endeavor of looking to find ways to include farmers within this process.
Yeah, and Ira's part of Cellular Agriculture Netherlands as well, and she
Yeah,
has this sort of pedigree, obviously, that her father is the godfather of cultivated meat.
yeah, yeah. So Ira van Eelen is within our board of accounts. She's one of the co-founders as well. And she's a very strong advocate for not only talking about farmers, but also including them. And her father, Willem van Eelen, was the first thought of the concept of cultivated meat. She told me he always intended to have cultivated meat as part of the current agriculture system, including farmers. Because, and for me, it makes sense, right? Looking from the type of technology these farmers work on a daily basis, why they wouldn't be able to work with a bioreactor or a process that we can there. But as I said, it's a bit too early days to see how it will develop. But I'm really glad that we find ways outside of the sort of dominant approach to see how we can scale up this industry.
It takes an awful lot of thinking outside of the box to imagine farms with few cows but many bioreactors.
Yeah, that's definitely a big change to how farms are currently run, but it also opens up a lot of opportunities to diversify the income streams for farmers. And there's also, if you look at our Dutch ecosystem, I think or like the biodiversity, I mean, we're one of the worst ranking countries within the EU. So if those farmers could then also invest in more supporting the landscape, or that would also eventually benefit us on our health and well-being within the Netherlands. So I'm really glad to see that farms are being included as part of the solution, and I'm also quite impressed with the way that they are willing to contribute to it. So we have one pilot facility on the way, and if I see the support from the wider agriculture entrepreneurs and the interest in this field and innovation, yeah, I think it's really supportive to see how this model will eventually go.
Yeah. I think it's a very interesting idea, and and it's a great story as well, isn't it? It's a wonderful sort of narrative to sort of see how it works, on the ground. So it's not people in kind of white coats, but it's
Yeah.
people in wellies, kind of, still obviously there will be people, might be people in white coats as well, but they'll be in white coats and wellies maybe. So,
Yeah, yeah,
so
exactly.
yeah. So, I mean, how would it work how would a cultivated meat farm work? Just in summary.
Basically, it will work like exact similar to another cultivated meat production. So there's actually one being opened this year. On the, I think the exact date is going to be announced. But there's actually a small scale cultivated meat production facility there, just the same as any other meat facility there. But this scale is not already towards commercial side. It's just by showing that the process will work there. So there's no difference.
So I suppose because you need cells in order to produce the meat in the bioreactors, and so you'd have the cows there to produce the cells, because you can't use the same cells indefinitely. You have to kind of have quite fresh cells or have stem cells or something. I'm not a scientist, so I can't say exactly. So and so you might need a herd of 12 cows rather than a herd of 150 cows or something. And those cows will.
Yeah, I think those answers, as you said, they're not final yet. They are researching it. I think they're looking for multiple ways to do it. Eventually, don't needing cows anymore within the process, but for at least creating cultivated meat, but
Yeah.
at least using it for other types of.
I
Uh,
suppose if it wouldn't be a farm if it didn't have any cows.
in Netherlands, it wouldn't be a farm, right? We're known for a landscape with black and white cows there
Yeah.
grazing, for sure.
I mean, they've had quite a lot of success in Denmark by with including their farmers in their. But I suppose that's not necessarily cultivated. Although I think they are including cultivated, uh, cellular agriculture in that. But it's mainly a shift to kind of plant-based foods, and they are kind of taking the farmers with them through
Yeah, we've just been on a trip towards Denmark to learn from their approach as well.
Ah,
Um, I haven't seen a lot of effort currently on cultivated meat production there, but there's a lot of inclusion of farmers to look beyond what future crops they need to be growing in order to support fermentation processes. So I think that's also a step that we in the Netherlands should take, but there's already a lot of discussion going there. If we're going to scale up fermentation, more processes, what kind of crops can farmers start growing to support that? Maybe a bit more sugar, high content products. But yeah, eventually, as we envision this technology to develop, it will have a massive impact on the way our current food system and our agricultural system is organized.
yeah.
So
So one final question for you, Tom, before I let you go. I mean, what are you most excited about in the field of cellular agriculture over the next few years? Who are the most exciting companies and individuals that are helping kind of move this industry?
yeah, there's two different questions.
Yeah,
I
it
think
is.
what I'm really excited for is to to start up the discussion with those retailers, focus on what eventual products will hit the shelves, what can we sell, to learn from that. I expect that to be happening within the 5 years. I don't know, but as far as it's developing, I'm really keen on driving that conversation. Um, of course, that products will come somewhere, so we have very great entrepreneurs driving this. Of course, people behind Moza Meat, Mark Post, Peter Verstraeten, but also the likes of Daan Luining, who are trailblazing this industry. But also the people within the precision fermentation behind those vegan cowboys have made really cool steps in creating plant-based cheese, creating that casein. Jaap Korteweg, Nico Kofferman, Hille van der Ka running that, but also Marcel Wubbert, Stefan Sint-Viet from Vervici, who are launching now in the US. It's quite exciting. So I find it's really cool to work in this field where there's a lot of extremely smart people involved, a lot of scientists, all gathered behind this ambition of changing that food system and also making that necessary change, but still supporting this field where there's still a lot of uncertainty and not sure. So I'm also really happy with all the young scientists, the PhDs that are joining this and want to turn this into a career and want to take part of it. And that's what also draw me to this field, that everyone is gathered behind this single dream, but dealing with a lot of uncertainty and not know if it will happen, but yeah, try to accomplish this together.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. It is a very interesting and exciting science, and that's also why I got involved because it just seems like it seems like a no-brainer. If we can make this work, then it surely is better than the kind of current way of doing things. So yes, I agree with you entirely. And
Yeah.
thank you for coming on to Future of Foods, Tom. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the invite and happy to share what we have been doing. And yeah, if people want to know more, well, I'm sure they will find me then.
They can.
All right.